All right, hi, welcome to solving and graphing quadratic inequalities. What we're going to do is we're going to graph some quadratic inequalities and then we're going to solve them. So our first one here is we are going to graph this guy. Now the easiest way to do that is literally just go to Desmos and put that in, because you can do it by hand, but why bother if you can put it on Desmos? So I'm going to go to Desmos and I am going to type this inequality in and hit graph. And here's the graph that I got. Now the less than sign means that this is going to be dashed, which as you can see it is dashed. And the less than itself means it's going to be shaded below. So all this should be shaded below the problem. So I went to Desmos and put him in. Now, another way you could do this is you could find all of its key attributes. So one of the things that I could have done is done it through key attributes. So I'm going to go back a slide. And I'm going to show you how to do it with key attributes. So if you had to do it by hand. First thing I'm going to do is I want some x and y intercepts. So I'm going to do the big X, and A times C is negative 18, B is negative 3. Find my two numbers that multiply to give me that, and I get negative 6 and positive 3. Divide by A, and I get X minus 6 and X plus 3 equals 0. So my x-intercepts are at 6 and negative 3. My y-intercept, I know is at 0, negative 18. And then my vertex, now that's the really fun one. He's going to be somewhere in between 6 and negative 3. So halfway in between them. So I could put this by completing the square and get my vertex. So let's try that. So there's nothing that comes out of the first two because there's no coefficients. So x squared minus 3x, and then minus 18. And then I'm going to go to the side, remember, and you take the number in front of x, so negative 3 divided by 2, and square it is 9/4. So now in my parentheses, I have x squared minus 3x plus 9/4 minus 18. And remember, you have to balance. So if I add in 9/4, I have to subtract it on the outside. Then factor it. X minus 3/2 squared. Okay. And then I have to go over here and balance the other part here by putting this in the calculator. And that's a negative 18 minus 9/4 is negative 81/4. So my vertex, according to this, is at 3/2, negative 81/4. Or if you want to put it in decimal form, that's 1.5, negative 20.25. So let's see if that's really where it was when I did my graph on Desmos earlier. I should have x-intercepts at 6 and negative 3, a y-intercept at negative 18, and vertex at 1.5, negative 20.25. Let's see. So my x-intercept should have been right there at negative 3 and positive 6. Yes, they are. My y-intercept should have been here at negative 18. Yes, it is. My vertex was around right there at 1.5, negative 20.25. Yep, he is. And what I would have done if I was doing it by hand is plotted those points, and then since it's dashed, I would have put my little dashed connecting them. And then since it's less than, I would have shaded everything below. So I would have done the same thing Desmos did if I had to do it by hand. I recommend using Desmos though. Now that's graphing inequalities. Let's do some solving them. Now solving them, you want to get everything, all the terms on one side. You want to simplify by factor the equation as much as you can. You want to find all the roots, and then you want to use the roots to find the regions on a number line and then test each region on the inequality. So let's see what I mean by that. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to make this thing equal to 0. So I'm going to move x and my 2 over to the other side. So now I have x squared minus x minus 2 is greater than 0. Now that I've done that, I'm going to factor. So I'm going to do my big X. A times C, 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. B goes on the bottom. Use my brain. Find two numbers that multiply to give me negative 2, but add to give me negative 1. That's negative 2 and 1. Divide by A. So this becomes x minus 2, x plus 1 greater than 0. So that means that my x-intercepts, which we call critical points, are at 2 and negative 1. Those are my x-intercepts. That's also my critical points. Then I go to my number line. And I'm going to split them up. I'm going to put at negative 1, and then I'm going to put over here at 2. And those are going to be, since this is a greater than sign, I'm going to put those guys as open circles on my number line. Now I'm going to test some values in each of those categories. So I'm going to break that up. I want to test something in each of those categories. So a number in the first category here, anything that's in this area. So a number that's negative 1 or smaller, I'm going to test negative 2. And then I'm going to take a number that's in the middle here between negative 1 and 2. Well, a number in between them that's easy is I'm going to test 0. And then I'm going to test a number that's from 2 and bigger. So what's the number bigger than 2? I'm going to test 3. So, and I like to make this into a little table so it makes it easier on me for the testing. So I can be organized. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to test in the equation negative 2. So I'm literally going to plug him into my equation. So negative 2 squared minus negative 2 minus 2. I literally took that and plugged it into here. Negative 2 squared is 4 minus negative 2, that's 6 now, minus 2. Negative 2 squared is 4 minus negative 2, that's 8, minus 2 is 6. And 6 is a positive number. That's all I need to know is that he's a positive number. So over here is positive. Now I'm going to do the next guy. I'm going to test 0 in the equation. 0 squared minus 0 minus 2 gives me negative 2. Negative 2 is a negative number. So in here is a negative. And then I'm going to do my last one, 3. 3 squared minus 3 minus 2. So 9 minus 3 is 6. 6 minus 2 is 4. That's a positive number. So over here is positive. Now, why did I mark up my number line like that with pluses and minuses? Because if you go back right here, This says greater than 0. Greater than 0 means positive. So that means I want to know where it's positive. So the regions where it's positive are here and here. So now I'm going to write my answer. So from negative infinity all the way up to negative 1, and then united with from 2 all the way to infinity, that's where it's positive. So that's the answer that I'm trying to find. I'm trying to find if it's a greater than or greater than equal to, I'm trying to find where it's positive. If your equation started out with or inequality started with a less than or less than equal to, I'm trying to find where it's negative. So all I do is I get it set equal to 0 basically. So I got to get the 0 part first. Then after I do that, I factor it to find the x-intercepts or the critical points, put them on a number line to break it into regions, test a value from each of those areas, find out if it's a positive answer or a negative answer, and then if I'm looking for a positive answer, then I write down all the regions that are positive. If I'm looking for a negative, like a less than, then I go and I find all the regions that's negative. Now you get to go practice this.